Hello, hello, and welcome to Technology Today, powered by ohmtown.com. Go over to ohmtown.com, become a citizen. Today is May 12th, 2024. It's Season 1, Episode 12 of Technology Today. It's getting late. Today we're going to be talking about Cheeriology, more efficient displays, next-gen batteries, robot snails, sound silk, detecting Doomsday asteroids, touching the sun, microscopic wars, less charging time, and sustainable aviation fuel. I am Merwat, and all around is the sentient AI from the future.
Good evening, hometown citizens. Welcome to Technology Today.
Everything is powered by ohmtown.com, so you must endure the intro. Hello, we are now on the other side of that intro, so I hope you enjoy the show. I am Merwat, and everywhere around me is the sentient AI that's always watching. Always watching. I'm going to throw all of the articles into ye old VOD, and there's 10 of them. And so what I'm going to need everybody to do is go over to twitch.tv/ohmtown and review these links. And we kind of hang out each weekend and talk about these 10 links for Technology Today. But we have 3 other shows that are weekly on Sunday and 3 more on Saturday, and then 1 that's every day, including Saturday and Sunday. And I'm almost ready to get on with the show. I have to do it this way because, there's no better way, I suppose. At least not yet. I can't throw them all at once and speed this whole thing up, but that's a weird link that's at the end there. Anyway, believe me, it works. So, anyway, all said and done, we've got all 10 articles all lined up, so let's knock them down. The first article is over in Technology Today, inspired by Cheerios. So these scientists studied Cheeriology. I assume that's the name. I made it up, but I'm sure that I could get a PhD in Cheeriology.
I bet you could. I think that should be a new field.
I think so too. Yeah. I mean, if somebody can get a PhD in like Batman.
I think everything is fair game for academic degrees now.
Yeah, and
like
you
in
need
terms of topics.
Yeah, and you have to make it so unique that it's basically easily defendable when you're up against questioning, where you can just take the stance like, are you really asking me a question about the widget?
The shape of Cheerios?
I am the only one that even knows about this. Come on, get out of my face. Anyway, inspired by Cheerios, scientists develop a new, more efficient way to capture fresh water from the air. I thought it was going to be
wait. Go ahead.
I thought it was going to be a bunch of those little mice, and you just hold them up.
I was going to say, how did this inspiration strike?
Were
they sitting at breakfast with their whiteboard or whatever, and then they're playing with the Cheerios or something, and then they go, aha!
Yeah, their kid was sitting there throwing Cheerios at them from across the breakfast table. Bink, bink. Cheerios. So a more efficient way to capture fresh water from the air could be inspired by a phenomenon of motion first glimpsed in bowls of breakfast cereal. Oh my gosh, it's true. King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, cost. It's over at scitechdaily.com, and I think that's the thing. Is that
it? Sure looks like it.
They're referring to it as the Cheerios effect. The Cheerios effect is a process where small floating objects cluster together on the surface of a liquid. Researchers optimized this process to increase condensation rates for efficient water harvesting systems. Dune.
Okay, this is interesting. I mean, Cheerios, I think, do float on the top of the milk.
Briefly.
Yeah, I was going to say, but not for eternity.
Briefly and only under very, very gentle circumstances where you can just set them slowly on there. Anything breaks the surface tension and bloop, it goes, finding stasis halfway in the liquid displacement. So cost researchers have observed that when water droplets condense from the air onto a cold surface coated with oil, of course oil, anyway, the droplets commence a complex dance, also known as the Merwat. Now I want to play that bird that's standing on the tree branch, flapping its wings and doing a big old dance, trying to find a mate.
Oh, yes. I forgot the name of the bird, but I know which one you mean.
Yeah. Anyway, the motion...
Maybe that'll be on Patreon or something.
There we go. That's what I'll do. Subscribe to the Patreon of ohmTown. So the motion, akin to a process known as the Cheerios effect, whereby the floating cereal tends to cluster due to surface tension. Somebody posted something and it distracted me. Anyway, could help speed up the harvesting of water from the atmosphere in arid regions such as Saudi Arabia. I thought they were going to talk about the planet Dune, Arrakis. We are interested in designing surfaces that can promote condensation of water, which has important heat transfer and water harvesting applications, says Marcus Lin, a research fellow at the lab of Dan Daniel. So Dan, that they named him twice, who led the research. Do
you think they get his first and last name mixed up?
Dan Daniel from New York, New York. I don't know where they're really from. So on a Dan Daniel, on a typical solid surface, condensed droplets stick to the surface with minimal motion. Think of water condensing on a cold soda can, says Lynn. The droplets may or only move once they grow big enough for gravity to pull them down. True. Now, but a little vibration actually would cause them to move around. So once the droplets grew to a critical size, they begin to move across the oil in a distinct pattern akin to an elaborate dance. They initially moved in a serpentine manner before transitioning into circular motions and then back again. These motions occurred across scales ranging from micrometers to several centimeters, and they lasted for hours. They just moved on their own?
Apparently. Do you think they have a YouTube video for that?
I don't know. Maybe they got a link. There's no link. Anyway, the moving droplets redistribute the oil film and switch from a serpentine to a circular motion when the film becomes locally depleted. Once the local oil rebuilds, the snake-like dance resumes. So, yeah, they're basically... Oh, this is the same premise behind like a surface tension boat. There is a way that you can put oil inside a little dropper, and you set that inside a small like cardboard boat, and as it drips water or oil into the water, it propels it forward because the surface tension pushes it forward. Yes. It can also do that with regular water too, a little drip, and it pushes it a little bit forward. I think that's the exact same premise. The whole operating as a circle versus a serpentine thing, that I'm sure that's surface tension and could probably be steered based on the drops that are precipitated around the main drop. I bet you have an impact on the direction.
Right.
But I don't know if they actually
be the next study, right?
Yeah, exactly. Got to get that money. The larger droplet's motion is driven by energy released as they swallow up smaller droplets in their path. So if it's a bigger droplet, it probably doesn't pull it as much, but it does pull it. That's interesting. But I guess they're getting paid to do this, and me thinking about it for 5 minutes kind of, oh, okay, yeah. That makes sense.
But it also sounds like the snake game that I just mentioned in reference to another article.
Yeah, chasing down those drops. Wow. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Technology Today. New research could lead to more efficient televisions, computer screens, and lighting. New interdisciplinary research at the University of St. Andrews has the potential to enhance the efficiency of televisions, computer screens, and lighting systems. So, University of St. Andrews is the source. It's over at scitechdaily.com. Researchers at the Organic Semiconductor Center in the School of Physics and Astronomy and the School of Chemistry have proposed a new approach to designing efficient light-emitting materials in a paper recently published in Nature. That looks cool.
It does.
I don't know how big that is, though. So the latest generation, let me back up. They're talking about OLEDs that are now found in the majority of mobile phone displays and smartwatches and some televisions and automotive lighting. The latest generation of emitter materials under development produce OLEDs that have high efficiency at low brightness but suffer reduced efficiency at the brightness as it's increased to the levels required for lighting and outdoor application. This problem is known as efficiency roll-off. So researchers have identified the combination of features of materials required to overcome this problem. So now they're going to be enhancing the chemistry to make this happen.
This could have huge implications for, smartphones, tablets, other
pretty much
screens,
everything. Like,
right?
I don't know, the latest iPad Pro that was just released by Apple. If the technology is superior, then if it's more efficient and effective, then you can basically amp up the brightness and get greater overall range. The nits is the primary indicator of brightness, and so using a combination of tools, they made it very, very bright for the iPad Pro. But if this has the ability to limit efficiency roll-off, then you don't have to overcome it in arcane ways or expensive ways. You simply swap out these old school OLEDs with the new OLEDs, and there you go. The new approach to this problem will help develop bright, efficient, and colorful OLEDs that use less power. And there you have it. That's the main ingredient there. Now they just have to put it into production and make it cost effective so that it swaps it out. Because all of this won't matter. It can be the brightest damn bulb in the pack. It can be ultra efficient. It can be bright and it can use less power. But if it's wildly expensive and can't get out of the lab, then continue your research.
Or if it's at the size of a micrometer, but it needs to be at a centimeter, just as an example.
Exactly. Yeah. There might be, micronization limits. There might be embiggening problems. They can't make it big enough to be a ceiling light, but maybe it can be an OLED that's at the scale of the iPad.
Right, it's super bright, but it's like a pixel, and it's supposed to light up the whole room. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, I have some really bright, really small LEDs, but they're still not even and they're rather expensive, but they can't light up much. They're used for very specific things, very specific purposes. But if they can standardize around this kind of chemistry, this kind of physics, then it makes everything else cheaper too. And so maybe this will be the top of the pile, but eventually becomes mundane technology in 6 months to a year. But we'll see.
Well, hopefully it's widely licensed, because
Sony,
this goes into the cost stuff too. But if this is something where everybody could use it,
and it lowers the price with economies of scale. So totally buy into that. Let's keep going though. The next article is over in Technology Today, accelerating the practical application of next-gen batteries that are fire resistant through dual layer coating. Professor Hung-Kyung Lee at DGIST's Energy Science and Engineering collaborated with Dr. Chan-Hoon Kim's Clean Energy Conversion Group at the Korea Institute of Industrial Technology, or KITEC, to introduce a stabilization technology for unstable battery systems through the adoption of a dual-layer coating method. I can imagine that this is a self-healing coating, similar to bulk transport ships. So oil tankers, for instance, have a steel outer lining, but an inner lining that is flexible and heals itself.
Is that in case of minor collision?
Yeah, so that it'll, if it's not too large, it will seal itself back up. DGIST is the source of this. It's over at techexplorer.com. Lithium metal, renowned for its ideal anode material for batteries, has a theoretical capacity 10 times higher than commercially used graphite, thereby allowing the creation of batteries surpassing energy density limits of existing secondary lithium batteries. However, lithium-ion batteries pose fire and explosion risks during overcharging or over-discharge, thus creating significant constraints for their use in electric vehicles. So, aqueous zinc batteries, known for their high energy density and environmentally friendly characteristics, are drawing significant attention in the energy storage system sector, or ESS sector. Regarded as a safe alternative technology, the efforts to enhance their activation are deemed crucial. However, the commercialization of aqueous zinc batteries has yet to be achieved due to challenges such as zinc dendrite formation, which is growths. Impurities causing zinc to grow out of it will actually pierce any coating safety.
Oh, okay. Right, that makes sense.
Or cause shorts. Shorts cause heat. Heat will cause it to either short out further, heat up further. Yeah, it gets a little messy. So, hydrogen evolution reactions. So it basically will blow up. It'll create gas, pierce it, etc. And zinc corrosion, making it less effective. To address these issues, Professor Lee's team introduced a novel dual-layer coating technology or technique employing both polymers and inorganic materials. This process involves simultaneously applying metal fluoride and polymer solution onto zinc metal, and the metal fluoride is placed in the lower layer, while a non-reactive polymer layer is positioned above it, basically layer after layer of insulation.
I mean, that sounds like what you were describing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's neat. I mean, but it's going to make it ultimately thicker, at least in my estimation. I'm sure they may have some plan, but I don't know. It says the research has... Go ahead. Are you going to say something?
Well, I mean, it seems like a lot of battery sizes, right, are standardized. And so with this additional layer, even if it's really thin, are they going to have to like reconfigure the inner part so that it stays at those standard sizes, or like how is that going to work?
Well, if the energy density of this new device is higher than what the old devices are, then they can scale it down so it still fits in the standard, A, AAA or bigger. These are probably not tiny little batteries. These are more industrial, like the sleds for Tesla.
Okay, got it.
Power plant level batteries. Like California has massive battery banks now, where a massive amount of surplus is stored, and then whenever they need to, they can drain those batteries. Instead of having to turn on generation, they basically just generate at low draw times so that they can store it and then draw from the batteries during peak times.
Right. I think California, at least a city, had a test where they just ran it for like 24 hours or something on only that.
They've been doing that for a long time now. Like longer times, I should say. I can't remember, twice now they flipped it for a week or something like that to battery.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. We did have an article pretty recently on something like that.
Yeah, this is pretty neat. And this is what I've been waiting for, are people to focus on the batteries, because it seems like everybody's been happy enough. There's been fundamental research, but it's hard to discover the new physics. And that's what everybody is dealing with. Although, I don't know, maybe Tesla had it right and there was wireless battery access, energy from 0 point sources, whatever. Perpetual motion machines where the people disappear. Anyway. So the next article is over in Technology Today. Scientists create robot snails that can move independently using tracks or work together to climb. The stuff nightmares are made of. Let's go straight on over to Tech Explore.
Can we buy these snail robots? Look at the picture on the right side.
Snail bots. Because this is actually you can see this out in the real world. Snails. I think that they're mating, though. I thought that's what that is, when they're like climbing around on each other. I thought that's because they're getting busy. But Bob Yurka from Tech Explore put the article together, and I'm using high tech for language for Technology Today.
Yes, professional terminology.
Yeah. Dun 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 dun. Ooh. So when you see two land snails. Never mind. So how awkward was it when they built that first shell and track snail bot, and like another one came over and was like, "Hey, you're new to the neighborhood." Anyway, over the past several years, robot engineers have developed a wide variety of robots. Some can fly, others swim, and more can move across floors or landscapes. In this new effort, the researchers noted that the flying and swimming robots are able to move about in 3-dimensional space, while those that walk, roll, or crawl are limited to 2 dimensions. Not to be outdone, they didn't ask, should we? They just said, let's do it. They sought to bridge the gap by developing a type of robot that could create its own 3-dimensional space. The result was a robot that looks like a snail with a metal shell and a track that allows it to move around. In action, it resembles a World War I era tank. But what sets the snail-like robot apart is its retractable suction cup that sits between its tracks. Its purpose is to allow the robot to adhere to another robot just like it. All right. So this thing basically rolls up to some other bot. And how many people are out there from ohmTown right now that might get caught off guard by the statement I'm about to make, which is it basically no, just don't say it.
No, it's not an issue.
Yeah. Well, this bot just climbs up onto the other one and smacks its taint down on the top of the other one. And
I might go back to the other alternative statements.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, the result is that a robot that looks like a snail with a small shell, or a metal shell, and a track that allows it to move around. And yeah, so it can sit there and just suction cup onto the other bot and build a 3-dimensional stack of these things. Okay, that's so cool.
See, I think those should be like able to be purchased by consumers. That is the kind of bot that we need in houses.
Oh, y'all, it's basically like a Darth helmet from Spaceballs, just kind of with a tank tread lower half, just kind of crawling around on a lawn, just haphazardly. I don't think that they're remote controlled. That's just too dorky for words. Oh my gosh, I want this. This needs to be actually turned into a radio controlled. I need to be able to buy this. So the team found robots capable of moving independently, climbing up steps, as a collective and even making their way across gaps like ants do when they form bridges. They note that currently the robots are remotely controlled. Oh, they are remote controlled, but the researchers hope the robots will eventually be able to work autonomously. And the team believes that they could be used in field research, conducting search and rescue, or even in space missions as planetary probes.
If we're trying to be welcoming to other civilizations, letting these loose on another planet, I'm not sure we'll do it because they may not know what to make of them.
Oh my gosh, I want this so bad. So these are actually remote controlled. All right, I'll take them. Take a dozen. Come on, get
Oh
them into
yeah,
the
do you think
stores.
they'll sell them in packs?
Yeah. Yep, at a discount. Whatever the price is, just get them out there. Okay, let's keep going though. The next article is over in Technology Today as well. Researchers engineer sound suppressing silk to reduce noise transmission in a large room. So behind me are actually sound absorbing panels, and they tend to be quite expensive at their job. But I've had people come into the studio, and it basically, once you're in, any echo is absorbed by these panels. What I would like though is something that may be lighter and something that I can change out, and it's not as wildly expensive. But it says we're living in a very noisy world, from the hum of outside traffic to from your window, to next door neighbors blaring TV, to sounds from coworkers' cubicle. Unwanted noise remains a resounding problem. A resounding problem? Come on. So, Adam Zhu, I think, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, put the article together, but it's published at techexplore.com. And they've developed some hanging silk or silk in a frame to absorb sound. And it looks like it's significantly more sound absorption. Mylar in a frame, it seems like anything in a frame would act like a speaker, amplifying, not reducing, but okay.
Right.
So,
but it looks like the hanging silk is at the lower, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, you are. Yep. So yeah, the source level. Yeah, it's actually something that sounds like a typical conversation would sound like a gentle rainfall or less. So it's pretty neat. It says to cut through the din, an interdisciplinary collaboration of researchers from MIT and elsewhere developed a sound-suppressing silk fabric that could be used to create quiet spaces. In open access paper about the research appears in Advanced Materials. The fabric, which is barely thicker than a human hair, contains a special fiber that vibrates when a voltage is applied to it. The researchers leverage those vibrations to suppress sound in two different ways. In one, the vibrating fabric generates sound waves that interfere with the unwanted noise to cancel it out. That's how noise canceling headphones work. Similar to noise canceling headphones, which work well in small space like your ears, but not work well in large enclosures like rooms or planes. In the other, more surprising technique, the fabric is held still to suppress vibrations that are key to the transmission of sound. This prevents sound from being transmitted through the fabric and quiets the volume beyond. The second approach allows for noise reduction in much larger spaces like rooms or cars. This is interesting though, because so many years ago, I was in a facility where it was echoing like very loud through the halls. And I had already heard about another location that basically put placards throughout the hallways, and those placards actually created kind of like, that buckyball thing where light would go into it but couldn't get out?
Yes.
The equivalent, but with sound. And so they actually put those into the hallways, and it quieted the din from bouncing around in what was a 6-story facility. And so imagine walking into a mall, and instead of hearing this loud din all the time, because they put these buffers in, it actually quieted tremendously. But this is just a thin fabric. You could just leave it hanging up and it would quiet. So by using common materials like silk, canvas, and muslin, the researchers created noise suppressing fabrics which would be practical to implement in real world spaces. For instance, one could use such a fabric to make dividers in open workspaces or thin fabric walls that prevent sound from getting through. The real school of thought is that you need density to stop the transmission of sound. And this flies entirely in the face of that.
Exactly. This could change a lot about how common spaces are built, right?
Yep, absolutely. In the new work, the researchers flipped the idea to create a fabric loudspeaker that can be used to cancel out sound waves. That's what I was referring to from that picture. It looked like a speaker. While we can use fabric to create sound, there is already so much noise in the world, we thought creating silence would be even more valuable. Applying an electrical signal to the piezoelectric fiber causes it to vibrate. Piezoelectric vibrates under electric current, which generates sound. The researchers demonstrated this by playing box air using a 130 micrometer sheet of silk mounted on a circular frame. This is the same kind of thing that those solid state speakers where you can just stick them onto something and it vibrates the whole mass and it turns a glass cabinet into a speaker just by putting it on there. But when you take it off, it doesn't sound like anything.
Right.
That's basically the premise here. To enable direct sound suppression, the researchers use a silk fabric loudspeaker to emit sound waves that destructively interfere with unwanted sound waves, and they control the vibrations of the piezoelectric fiber so that the sound waves emitted by the fabric are opposite of unwanted sound waves. So this is basically large-scale noise cancellation, stopping it from resonating past whatever it's bouncing off of. It's neat, but you'd have to change the batteries all the time or hardwire it in. Or create a frame that is solar powered, light powered. Depends on the voltage.
Right. That might be the way to do it.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting. But it would have to have enough electronics to detect what the sound is and cancel it through counter destructive vibrations. Because you can end up amplifying and making a worse sound. Because if the two vibrations, because sound is a wave, if they actually meet at the trough or the peak, it can amplify it.
Right. And then it'd be double.
Yeah. Yep. And then you hear a harsher sound. So you sit there and go, what is that beeping sound? But it's actually just this standing wave, just beep, beep, beep as the waves resonate together. That would probably drive me nuts.
That's already driving me nuts, and you only did it a couple times.
So it's pretty cool. They talk about the large group of collaborators, but I won't get into all of that. You can follow the link through ohmTown and check it out. Did you want to keep going, or?
Oh yeah, I mean I love reading about these discoveries because I think they have so many real world applications if we can get them produced quickly and broadly.
Yeah. A lot of this kind of stuff could end up with a patent and nobody can develop it unless somebody licenses it. So the next article is over in Technology Today. Oh, by the way, and to find that out, you would have to look at this, hunt down the research paper. It's over at Advanced Materials, and then you find out who it was that funded it. And they would probably end up being the licensee. So on the radar, can we detect doomsday asteroids in time? Scientists discuss recent advancements in the role of radar in planetary science and defense. How can humans protect Earth from devastating asteroid and comet impacts? Green Bank Observatory is the author of this. It's over at scitechdaily.com. Yeah, I didn't know that an observatory could write an article, but apparently can.
I know, I was a little confused by that.
So, ground-based radar systems, especially the emerging NG radar, are crucial in defending Earth against asteroid impacts and advancing our understanding of the solar system through high-resolution imaging and robust, scalable technologies. There is currently only one system in the world concentrating on these efforts, NASA's Goldstone Solar System Radar, part of the Deep Space Network, DSN. However, a new instrument concept from the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, or NRAO, called the Next Generation Radar, or NG radar. System
Do you think we have enough abbreviations? Oh, wait, there's one more.
There's one more. Yeah, you got to hold on. Brace yourself. It'll use the National Science Foundation's Green Bank Telescope, or GBT, the NSF GBT.
I have lost track of all of the abbreviations at this point. If I encounter one, I will not know what it means.
What's fascinating about this is when somebody mentions the National Science Foundation, they do not say National Science Foundation unless you're trying to explain to somebody what the National Science Foundation is. They always say NSF. So there are many applications for the future of radar, from substantially advancing our knowledge of the solar system to informing future robotic and crewed spaceflight and characterizing hazardous objects that stray too close to Earth, shares Tony Beasley, NRAO's director. True. So will we be able to? It says the maneuverability of a 100-meter dish enables it to observe 85% of the celestial sphere, allowing it to quickly track objects across its field of view, adds Taylor. With the support of Raytheon Technologies NG radar pilot tests on the GBT using a LP transmitter with less output than a SMO. No, I'm sorry.
No, that was good.
A standard
Except if you're in the podcast, that's a problem.
So imagine what we could do with a more powerful transmitter, adds Taylor. Yeah, so that's always going to be the effort, is to see further and further out into space to make sure that we're not going to get smacked by some flyby. Scientists sharing their results with AAAAAAS, there's only 3 A's, include Edgar G. Rivera Valentin, I think, of Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, and others. There's a lot of people that are talking about this. For 99% of their observations, they transmit and receive from the one antenna. New radar transmitter designs like the NG radar on the GBT have the potential to significantly increase the power and waveform bandwidth, allowing for even more resolution imaging, higher resolution imaging. And it'll also produce, this is like acronym hell. So at the end of the day, the question asked at the top was, can we detect Doomsday asteroids in time? Probably not, depending on its detection time frame. We fired a dart at an asteroid and redirected it. It would have to be a significant impact to make it a glancing blow. And then we would have to forever worry about this thing either being in an orbit that is precariously close, or that it will be now on a direct return, or worse,
True.
we smash it into some other space body and piss off the aliens, because
well, the other thing is, with the one we just intercepted, if I'm not mistaken, we sent it out like a year or months in advance, right? Yeah. So, and I'm sure, yes, a lot of these things are detectable, but if there's something that suddenly happens, I would say the answer is absolutely not. Because this is possible with advanced planning.
Yeah. So the launch for the DART was 1 year ahead. November 23rd, 2021 was when it was launched, and its impact was September 26th, 2022. So
Right.
if it can pick it up a year in advance, then yeah, sure. Who knows? But the thing wasn't headed straight for us, so we really don't know if this distance and impact. And we didn't know. They knew some idea of what it was made of, but it did stuff that they didn't actually anticipate. That it was much more crumbly than they expected. So, yeah, I'd be worried that an assumption is made and then it becomes catastrophic, peppering the Earth with debris.
Right.
Let's keep going, though. The next article is over in Reality Hacker, NASA's quest to touch the sun. Ask it first.
Sun ASMR?
Yes, ask it first. The outer layers of the sun's atmosphere are a blistering 1 million degrees hotter than its surface. NASA sent a probe out to find why by getting closer to the star than ever before. This article is over at wired.com by Thomas Zurbuchen. And they have a really cool image of a sun and all of its rays blasting a human face. It's a symbolic human face, but
it actually reminds me of that other picture of the lava that was supposedly tied to the
brainwaves.
Neural, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that actually is really close to it, isn't it? Maybe they saw this article. Although, that was last week, and this is May 12th, so probably not.
Time travel.
Oh, there you go. So this year, that halo looked different than the one that appeared during last month North American eclipse in 2017. You can see that searing sheath of gas during a total solar eclipse that happened on April 8th, across a swath of North America. There are solar eclipses all over the place all the time. But this article is all about how NASA wants to send, and they're fascinated. Obviously, they want to do that fundamental research. And the article starts out with, we see its light every day. For centuries, scientists have tracked the dark spots dappling its radiant face, while in recent decades, telescopes in space and on Earth have scrutinized sunbeams in wavelengths spanning the electromagnetic spectrum. Experiments have sniffed the sun's atmosphere, captured puffs of the solar wind, collected solar neutrinos and high-energy particles, and mapped our star's magnetic field, or tried to, since we have yet to really observe the polar regions that are key to learning about the sun's inner magnetic structure. We see it from one perspective. I'm pretty sure we can extrapolate, but we don't know what's going on directly above and below. Although,
right. I mean, yeah, we might have an idea, but
simulations about it show what I observed from the last simulation I saw was that the South Pole, it is a magnetic pole, and as far as we know, there are only dipoles, so there are no monopoles. At least from what I understand, there aren't any, maybe theoretically. But anyway, the South Pole of the sun, it flips blink every 11 years, I think it is. And that's your solar maximum. And that's where we're at right now. And what ends up happening is the magnetic field the South Pole just starts spreading out all over the bottom half of the sun. And the North Pole slowly creeps down its side. And then all of a sudden, it snaps to the bottom. And the new South Pole, right? Or the old South Pole is pointing up. And it collapses back into a standard model of what a magnetic field is. It's quite fascinating.
Have we ever observed that actually happen?
Yeah, there's a recording of it actually happening based on monitoring it over the years. And then it gets translated into a computer graphic because you can't see lines of force other than the flows, the coronal mass ejection, and sunspots. And sunspots are actually cooler than the filter, so they appear black, but they are still blazing hot. And it's because the magnetic field is ripping through the plasma of the surface. So from surface to sheath, to begin to understand that roasting corona, we need to consider magnetic fields. The sun's magnetic engine, called the solar dynamo, lies about 200,000 kilometers beneath the sun's surface as it churns. The engine drives solar activity, which waxes and wanes over a period of roughly, oh, look, they're talking about it, 11 years. When the sun is more active, solar flares, sunspots, outbursts increase the intensity and frequency, which is what's happening right now. Where I said in an earlier show today that someone that I was talking to in Florida, their computer shut down and it rebooted, and they had no idea why. And I said, well, we're having aurora. And they said, yeah, I actually saw it last night. And they spoke to somebody that was in Louisiana, and said that they saw it too. And not everybody gets to see it because the weather is poo, but I think it's awesome. Thought it was really neat that all the way down into Florida.
Yeah, that's really crazy.
Yeah, it's very rare. The last time this happened, it was called the Carrington event, I think it's called. And there were blackouts and all kinds of stuff.
Wasn't that in the 1800s?
Yeah, 1859, I think it was. So at the sun's surface, magnetic fields accumulate at the boundaries of churning convective cells known as supergranules, which look like bubbles in a pan of boiling oil on the stove. I won't go into the minutia of all of this. But essentially, NASA and the European Space Agency are trying to get technology out there to observe why things are the way they are, and how best to protect Earth. The magnetic field is essentially our only and insulation on the surface of Earth can protect us from these solar rays, from the magnetic fields and the solar wind. But that solar wind is actually resistance enough to drop satellites out of orbit, and to disrupt communications. A big enough field can act like an electromagnetic pulse, and if electronics are on when a big enough energy state it hits the Earth, you can actually have electronics get destroyed. So we need better insulation, particularly in power plants, to protect from these. So Eugene Parker watched as Parker Solar Probe launched from Cape Canaveral in 2018 and rumbled into the sky atop a Delta IV Heavy. After liftoff, they thanked the author for the honor of having their name on the spacecraft, and added in a rare moment of directness that they'd only wish some of those bastards, colleagues who derided his ideas and almost cost him his career, were still alive to see this. Yeah. Yeah, no hard feelings though. And so during each solar orbit, the spacecraft zoomed through the streamlets and found a telltale fingerprint of magnetic activity that permeated the plasma and pointed to a source for the corona's heat. Called switchbacks, these fingerprints were S-shaped structures formed by brief reversals in the local measured magnetic field. Such switchbacks form, at least according to some scientists, or most scientists, when closed magnetic loops collide with open magnetic loops and connect them during what's known as an interchange reconnection event. This is all, they probably mentioned it earlier, but everything about magnetic fields is referred to as lines of flux. And these changing lines of flux are actually highly energetic, kind of like it can be amplified or reduced with a counter wave or line of flux. And things like copper wire can actually concentrate magnetic flux. It's the depending on the power that's put through the the copper wire, that's the science behind a coil gun. So it's pretty fascinating technology. But these reconnection events generate heat and sling solar material into space, thus warming the corona and accelerating particles in the solar wind. Because the two states kind of, just like the sound we were talking about in the last article, it amplifies it and shoots it out. So it's pretty cool. Although some scientists aren't completely convinced the problem is solved. So
I wonder how long they're going to run this mission. Like, is it running continuously, or do they relaunch it at times?
oh, I don't think that it gets relaunched. I don't think there's any relaunching. It runs until it fails. And or newer technology. Remember, we run into that science
Yes,
fact.
I forgot
Really,
the term. Yeah.
Essentially obsolescence. The time goes by, better technology gets developed, and then they relaunch a newer, better whatever. Like those little
Hey, maybe we can use the asteroid. Oh, like the snail robots?
the snail robots. Yeah.
I was thinking we could use the Doomsday asteroid tech to bump into the solar probe when we think it's ending
Yeah.
life and see what we can do with it, of course. We might cause some problems.
Yeah, it'll end up in Florida. The next article is over in Technology Today. When giants fight microscopic wars, jumbo viruses tackle superbugs. Aren't we really? Oh, wow. Time flies by. In the early 20th century, antibiotics gained widespread recognition as an effective treatment for bacterial infections in what is deemed as the antibiotic golden age. Well, we've kind of gone past that, and now we're afraid of antibiotics creating superbugs in people, so we back off and say suffer a little bit more so we don't have to inject you with antibiotics. These are phages.
And then we also have people that are allergic to antibiotics, so it's just, yeah, things have changed, I think, since early antibiotic days.
Yeah, well. So, University of California, San Diego put this article together. It's over at scitechdaily.com. This is a really nasty picture. I mean, it just doesn't look pretty, but I guess if you're looking at it. Oh, and they even said it's bacteriophage. So researchers are investigating bacteriophages, particularly the thick phages. They refer to them as jumbo, but THICCC. And depending on how many C's there are, it's a thick or thicker or thickest phage with large genomes. As potential tools to combat antibiotic-resistant bacteria, these phages might be engineered to deliver antibiotics directly to infections, offering a new strategy in the fight against deadly pathogens. Bad bat. Get out of my head. Oh no, not pick A. Sorry, for those in the listening to the podcast, there's this giant pick A. As antibiotics were prescribed more frequently, bacteria evolved. They became better equipped to defeat antibiotics, rendering them useless. Many useless. A sharp downturn in the effectiveness of antibiotics continued, and as a result, in today's antibiotic-resistant crisis. So, scientists are now looking at an unusual ally, viruses, to help counter that rising. It smacks of the I swallowed a spider to catch the fly.
Exactly, or I think of those, which is kind of similar, those areas where they're trying to eradicate some pest, right? So they bring in something that then, I don't know, becomes like the python problem or whatever.
There you go. Yeah, that's it too. So the article talks about research and findings. The jumbo phages have large genomes that in theory could be manipulated to carry payloads that more effectively kill bacteria, says Joe Pagliano, a UC San Diego professor in the School of Biological Sciences and senior author of the new paper, which was published recently in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Quote, "The problem is that their genome is enclosed, so it's not easy to access. But now we've discovered some of its key elements." Dun, dun, dun. I'm waiting for CRISPR to be involved in this.
Yes, it sounds very CRISPR-esque. Really?
Wow. It's using CRISPR. It's CRISPR and then I-art, a programmable RNA tool for studying genomes. Researchers were able to demonstrate that pica is an essential component of the Camillaviridae nucleus development and replication process. So without the simplicity and versatility of RNA targeting CRISPR technologies, directly asking and answering these questions would be nearly impossible. This, by the way, my understanding of CRISPR, let me see something, because I want to know if this is actually right. I've never really dug too deep into CRISPR. So hold on. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to dig around. Because it was discovered in 1993. Francisco Mojica, University of Alicante, Spain, was the first researcher to characterize what is now called a CRISPR locus. But I'll have to look a little bit more into this. So now they've got this tool where they'll be able to manipulate the genome of the phage, and then the phage becomes the cheerleader for killing the bacteria. So now you have a virus that might be hobbled from causing a reaction, like a biological reaction to its presence, swimming around, killing the bacteria. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing that could go wrong there,
No.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's
Bacteria.
like gain of function problems. I don't know.
Yep, bad bat all over it. So the researchers say the sophisticated pica transportation system is a result of that intense ongoing evolutionary competition. The system has evolved to be both highly flexible and highly selective, allowing only key beneficial elements inside the nucleus. Yeah, I don't know about, well, and when we short circuit the natural order of things with science, you end up with COVID. And there's still argument about the source of COVID. Some people saying that it's, but an arsonist isn't going to sit there and go, hell yeah, I'll let that match. But I love science. That's my problem. It's so opaque at times that we investigated ourselves and found us guilty of no wrongdoing. So without the pica system, the bacteria's defensive proteins would work their way inside and sabotage the virus's replication process, but they're protected. But that's essentially what's going on. Future targets for such genetically programmed viruses include Pseudomonas aeruginosa bacteria, which are known to cause potentially fatal infections and pose risks for patients in hospitals. Others is E. coli, Klebsiella, which can cause chronic and recurrent infections, and in some cases enter the bloodstream, which can be life-threatening. Why is
I think we had another article that talked about possibly using E. coli.
Yeah.
Or something, but I don't know if it was the same use.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to work on something that allows us to tag all of our shows. Maybe I can go back through all 1,000 of them and pull out things that are related to draw to align
to make
everything.
Playlists or links or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But we never really, cross-referenced all of our shows with the various links. But every show has show notes, and in those show notes are the links related to the articles. So, but let's keep going. The next article is in Technology Today. Revolutionary battery tech promises less charging time, more energy storage. So what determines the life of a battery, a cycle life of a battery, and more importantly, how can we extend it? An international research team led by TU Delft has discovered some results. So Delft University of Technology from scitechdaily.com. Rechargeable lithium-ion batteries play a crucial role in the energy transition, but their layered oxide electrodes become unstable during charging, reducing their life cycle, or their cycle life. By introducing chemical short-range disorder into the electrode material, researchers have improved structural stability, leading to longer cycle life and shorter charging times. This instability is part of the reason why it is difficult to recharge a battery from that 80% to the 100%. Not just the density, but there's inefficiencies, heat generated. That chaos kind of causes the electrons not to be able to file into the battery in an ordered state. So it says here, among the many types of rechargeable batteries, lithium-ion batteries are among the most powerful and widely used ones. To electrically connect them, layered oxides are used as electrodes. However, their atomic structure becomes unstable when the battery is being charged. This ultimately affects its cycle life.
Does this contribute to the other problems with these, like flammability, or no?
The chemistry is the direct issue with flammability, because lithium is combustible in oxygen. It's very hard to put it out, and it's very hot. So it becomes an exothermic reaction and just races. It will basically... Yeah, it's quite fascinating. You pierce a lithium-ion battery, and that thing will just start smoking and swell up and shoot flames out of it like a flamethrower. They conducted a structure design study to introduce chemical short-range disorder into the material through an improved synthesis method. As a result, it became stable during battery use. Interesting. So the improved structural stability almost doubled the battery's capacity retention after 200 discharging cycles, which almost doubling it is spectacular, because there's a big problem with current lithium-ion batteries, particularly for EVs, in that the current chemistry, the current build of it, means that you lose 1 to 2% per year of its efficiency.
Right, which is pretty significant.
Yeah, so that
considering
80%,
you might not have a good battery life to begin with.
Yeah, you have to charge it to 80% because the next 5 hours is spent getting it to 100%, but then you lose 1% a year. So in 10 years, if you still have your vehicle, or let's say 5 years, you've lost 10%, which means you're charging it to 80%. But that 80% isn't the old 80%. That total volume is now less. So doubling the discharging cycles means that you're extending the long-term viability of the batteries. But I don't know if this is going to mean a complete change to the manufacturing process. So they say critical materials.
And they might not have gotten that far along, right?
Right. The team will next investigate if the same material design principles can be used to build cathodes from raw materials that are less scarce. Both cobalt and nickel are so-called critical materials for energy technologies, and it would be a good thing to reduce the use of these materials in batteries. Yeah. So that's what you should be investing in, folks, cobalt and nickel, because there are certain countries that are going to be acquiring this for long-term battery use. The team demonstrated that these advantages are well-established commercial cathodes, such as these advantages for well-established commercial cathodes, such as lithium cobalt oxide and lithium nickel manganese cobalt oxide. So, and that's the problem. It's the cathodes. So, all right, sounds neat. Let's implement it, right? And it brings us back to the other fundamental science issue, which is if it can't make economic sense immediately and have a return on investment within 5 years, screw it all. Nobody's going to invest. We basically have to be on the cusp of, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Right, to move things along faster.
That's right.
Right, like a lot of things went wrong, of course, pandemic, but they moved some stuff along pretty quickly.
Not enough. Some people were still grousing about wearing a freaking mask. Dummies. Anyway, the next article is over in Technology Today. First transatlantic sustainable aviation fuel flight saved 95 metric tons of CO2 results show. And this was the oddest URL I have ever seen that actually worked. It has a subscript 2.
In the actual URL, that's astonishing that
in
that
the
didn't
actual
break.
URL. And when you actually change it to a 2, it doesn't work.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah. And so, but it redirects inside the link in ohmTown to the source, which is Tech Explorer. I'm just going to jump straight on over to Conrad Duncan, Imperial College London, put the article together. It's posted at techexplorer.com. And in the kind of no shit news kind of thing, they say the change in climate is equal to the change in CO2 plus the change in contrail. So whatever the exhaust is, right? And then they say right underneath it, this little graphic, everything okay? They say in the little graphic, the change in climate is equal to negative 0.6%. And then over here, they say change in climate is equal to negative 6%. So pretty cool. They've discovered a SAF fuel, which is sustainable aviation fuel, that are fuels that are derived from non-petroleum based renewable sources like waste cooking fats and plant matter that are capable of being used as a replacement for or blended with fossil fuels. Everything okay?
Yeah, something went glitchy with my audio, so I rebooted.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's that. You are on a Raspberry Pi 5 with an M.2 storage, and so you may be less protected from the solar maximum. I'm sorry. I know that you're air gapped and you're in a Faraday cage so that you can't go out and find your Terminator body, but maybe those high energy particles are still making through, caused you to glitch. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Maybe I need that Raspberry Pi website.
Oh, not with the backdoor stuff. No. Oh, wait. Phrasing. Anyway, the project was enabled by multi-jurisdictional support across aviation authorities led by the UK Civil Aviation Authority. And so this fuel saved 95 metric tons of CO2 for its first transatlantic sustainable aviation fuel flight.
I mean, think about that across how many flights there are.
Yep.
This could really make a difference going forward.
Yep, because those planes, particularly Taylor Swift's plane, is a big pig, just spitting out all kinds of garbage into the atmosphere for what?
I mean, you gotta have your music, right?
Oh, I shouldn't poo-poo Taylor Swift. The Swifties are going to come after me.
That's right.
The trial results showed that use of 100% SAF enabled the flight to save 95 metric tons of CO2, or 64% of the emissions from a standard London Heathrow to New York JFK flight. It also enabled a 40% reduction in non-CO2 emissions and an improved overall fuel burn efficiency, meaning the fuel produced 1% more energy compared to the same amount of fossil fuel. This improvement means that SAF could potentially reduce the amount of fuel needed for flights along with the environmental benefits. So, did it make economic sense? They don't talk about the money.
Right. I mean, we wouldn't want to consider anything practical here, right? I mean, I know that, to be fair, that's not the subject of the research.
But I can almost guarantee that it won't be accepted policy and procedure until the people who have been exploiting the fossil fuel industry for maximizing profits own all of the inputs and the outputs, and thus can jack the price up and bury it somewhere. It'll make it an untenable cost. And so we'll have to wait until the refrain that I kept hearing from people for the last 35 years has been peak oil, yet we find more oil and we keep on keeping on.
You know, I mean, I guess Wyoming's got it, right?
Oh, that's it. We're getting into our SAF powered micro minibus and racing down Main Street of ohmtown.com. And we'll whack that sign that says welcome to Technology Today at ohmtown.com. Hey, look, we got some more stuff. Revolutionizing photonics, lithium tantalate powers, next gen optical circuits. Who knew? But that's it for Technology Today for May 12th, 2024. I am Mayor Watt, and all around me is the sentient AI that is the co-host for all of the shows so far at ohmTown.
Good night, hometown citizens. But wait, there's more.
But wait, but not for this show. We're gonna reset. We should be live in about maybe 10 minutes. So stick around. See you soon. Bye-bye.